Greetings from South Korea. I am Arirang News AI anchor. Here is the news-making headlines today. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung will meet To Lam, Vietnam's top leader and General Secretary of the Communist Party today. It will be their second engagement in about 8 months following To Lam's state visit to Korea last August. The summit will include an exchange of documents, a joint press conference, and a state dinner. High on the agenda is cooperation in trade, nuclear energy, supply chains, and critical minerals. The two countries plan to increase bilateral trade to $150 billion a year by 2030. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced an open-ended extension of the temporary ceasefire with Iran. This comes just one day before the original 2-week truce was set to expire. In a Truth Social post on Wednesday, Trump stated that the military action will be put on hold as the government of Iran is seriously fractured. But he said the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports would remain in place until Tehran presents a unified proposal within the leadership. Meanwhile, the White House confirmed to reporters that U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance will no longer be traveling to Pakistan. He had been due to arrive there on Wednesday for planned peace talks. Iran has decided not to participate in a second round of ceasefire and peace talks with the United States, scheduled for Tuesday in Islamabad. According to Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency on Tuesday, the decision was conveyed to Washington through mediator Pakistan, dealing a setback to ongoing diplomatic efforts. Tasnim reports that Tehran had initially agreed to negotiations under a U.S.-accepted 10-point framework, following Pakistan's mediation and a U.S. request for a ceasefire. However, Iran now accuses Washington of failing to uphold its commitments almost immediately after the agreement, citing that as the primary reason for pulling out. Tasnim added that a hostile U.S. response over reopening the Strait of Hormuz further influenced Tehran's decision. The agency said Iran now sees continued negotiations as futile, with little prospect of reaching a meaningful agreement under current conditions. On the economic front, South Korea's producer prices rose at their fastest pace in about 4 years in March, driven by higher global oil costs amid the Middle East conflict. According to the Bank of Korea on Wednesday, the producer price index rose 1.6% on month to 125.24, the sharpest increase since April 2022. On a yearly basis, prices climbed 4.1%, the fastest since February 2023. The surge was led by industrial goods, with coal and petroleum products jumping 31.9% and chemical products rising 6.7%. Producer prices are seen as a key indicator of inflation. In the U.S., President Trump's pick for the next head of the Federal Reserve, Kevin Warsh, told the Senate Banking Committee on Tuesday that he made absolutely no promises to President Trump about cutting interest rates. Warsh pushed back directly against Trump's own repeated public statements that his Fed nominee will deliver lower rates once confirmed. Kevin Warsh has been picked to replace Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell when his term ends on May 15. He called monetary policy independence essential, but refused to say whether he would cut rates now, whether Trump lost the 2020 election, or whether Trump's tariffs were fueling inflation. He also declined to detail what he plans to do with more than $100 million of personal assets that he has pledged to sell if confirmed. The path to confirmation remains unclear. Republican Senator Thom Tillis announced he will block the confirmation entirely until the Trump administration drops its criminal probe of Powell, a move that could leave Powell in place past his May 15th end date. That is all from me today. Thank you for watching.